I've got the collapse of Scotland's woke government. I don't know if people have been following this, but the SNP, like for years, they've been presenting a face of this real nice wokey, nice. Oh, Mammy Nicola looks after you and all this sort of stuff. While under the surface,
Angela Merkel, isn't it? Actually, it's very that sort of framing. Now you put it,
Whereas the reality is they're very authoritarian and pushing through all this ridiculous ideological stuff like the gender reform bill, which we'll get onto in a moment. But for years, Nicola Sturgeon and her husband Peter Murrell had an iron grip over the SNP in Scotland. She was the leader. He was the chief executive of the SNP, and they basically had an elective dictatorship because their single issue independence for Scotland, freedom, that always gave them a majority at the election, because people don't look too deeply into what if there's a real emotive message that resonates with people, they'll vote for it, and independence does that. Even if the actual sort of technocratic side of actually administering government, they absolutely failed on in education, health, life expectancy, drug abuse, everything is just getting so much worse in Scotland. And they turned Scotland into this sort of authoritarian woke hellhole. They pushed through ridiculous legislation because there's no real opposition in Scotland. There's the named person scheme that made every child was going to be like the sort of ward of the state. Their state was going to be responsible rather than the parents, which is brilliant. Man, hugely dangerous. Like Soviet Union level stuff. That got cancelled eventually because it was a terrible idea.
Should we be the Soviet Union? Well, it's a coin toss.
Well, I mean, a lot of people in Scotland, we should be the Soviet Union because that's not England. That's not England.
No, they've got us there. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. SNP diehards.
Jeremy Corbyn would love to be the Soviet Union. Even though, if we actually had the Soviet Union in the UK, Jeremy Corbyn would be a source of meat for us. Not, I think he's got the wrong idea about what it would actually transpire to be. The SNP also had the Offensive Behaviour at Football and Threatening Communications Act, which basically made singing songs at the football illegal, and that got rolled back as well.
Absolute Cromwellian killjoys here. Christmas over, fun over.
Yeah, and obviously it was going to be they're very partisan with how they apply regulations like this. Yeah. So Rangers fans who are generally unionists want to stay in the UK, they get punished, and Celtic fans who want independence don't get punished. Right. The gender reform bill more recently came through. It's to lower the age that children can transition. It makes it much easier to self-identify.
Put male rapists in women's prisons.
It allows male rapists into women's prisons, and everybody said, wait a minute, if you just let people self-identify, so if I get arrested, sent to prison, say for example I'm the SNP treasurer, I get sent to then
which is an entirely likely outcome, actually.
Yeah. I'm too good with numbers to be the SNP treasurer, but. Yeah, if I get sent to prison, I can just be, oh, wait a minute. And in court, during the process, I can just, by the way, I'm a woman, and everybody has to start referring to me as she.
Come in like Dylan Mulvaney.
Yeah. Not even.
Day one of a woman.
Don't even need to put that much effort. If we scroll down on this page, you can see. So this is the male rapist that was going to go to prison. And you can see the bulge. In the clip, not that. That's his ex-wife. That is just what a woman looks like in Scotland. Here he is. Oh, maybe they don't have the actual. If we keep going down, there should be a picture of the bulge. There we go. There's the little
Scottish
bulge.
Woman pictured there.
Average Scottish woman with a little swollen vagina. Anyway, so the SNP are right on board with critical race theory and every other malignant cultural ideology. Here's a video of the current leader of the SNP, Humza Yousaf, lambasting Scotland's institutions for being run by white people.
The Lord President, white. The Lord Justice Clerk, white. Every High Court judge, white. The Lord Advocate, white. The Solicitor General, white. The Chief Constable, white. Every Deputy Chief Constable, white. Every Assistant Chief Constable, white. The head of the Law Society, white. The head of the Faculty of Advocates, white. Every prison governor, white. And not just justice. The Chief Medical Officer, white. The Chief Nursing Officer, white. The Chief Veterinary Officer, white. The Chief Social Work Advisor, white. Almost every trade union in this country headed by people who are white. In the Scottish Government, every Director General is white. Every chair of every public body is white.
They're all Scottish, mate. I don't know what to tell you.
Scotland is 96% white.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously under the SNP that's changing because diversity is strength and stuff.
But
so
this is my long-running joke against Count Dankula. Every time you post something about Humza Yousaf, I just post the Longshanks. The trouble with Scotland is it's full of Scots.
Yeah,
sorry, that's Humza Yousaf's entire position there.
Yeah.
But I mean, imagine going to like Bradford or Luton and being like, everyone here, Pakistani. No, that'd be a hate crime. That would be a hate crime.
Yeah.
I would be in trouble. I would go to jail for being a racist.
Yeah.
Doing that,
Because there's not equality.
Because it's racial discrimination.
Yeah.
The way he says it with such venom as well.
Yeah.
I'm sick of all these white Scots around me. It's like, mate, you live in Scotland.
Yeah,
I don't know what to tell you.
But then people accept it.
Yeah.
Most people are just like, oh yeah, no, I guess I've got to go along with this. And,
that's the thing. What point does he think he's making?
Yeah.
Right? What points do you think he's making? Look, all the people in position of power in Scotland are Scottish. It's like, isn't that how it should be? If I went to Pakistan and they were all like from Timbuktu or something, I'd be like, that's a bit weird, isn't it?
Yeah,
Are you under occupation from North Africa or something?
Yeah, and fun enough, I saw a video of Jada Franson talking about people, and she was saying black in the same way, and the SNP. The SNP.
Humza Yousaf, Jada Franson.
Yeah. Which ones? I mean, Jada could probably run a country, but
well, I mean,
I wouldn't
her
trust
political party isn't falling apart, is it?
It's not bankrupt. Hasn't spent all the money on motorhomes. But yeah, I mean, people will obviously say Jada Franson's, racist, racist, whatever. But nobody says it about Humza Yousaf. I don't know. It's interesting the double standards, and
he's got a much bigger platform for his racism as well.
Yeah,
he's way more racist to a lot more people.
Yeah, I know. Also, the SNP, I mean, the Scottish National Party, they're nationalists. And they've aligned themselves. They've marched along with it's called All Under One Banner, where all the independence movements march together. Really? So they align themselves with ethno-fascists such as Sean Nangale.
Oh,
so they're marching with who, to be honest, Jada Franson would look
very moderate
compared to them. It's ridiculous. But yes, suddenly the SNP have collapsed. So Sturgeon resigned. Her husband, Peter Murrell, who's the chief exec, and other SNP bigwigs have been arrested or resigned. So what happened? So 6 years ago, Sturgeon promised a second referendum on Scottish independence after losing the first one. After enough Scottish people sobered up in time to realise it's a terrible idea.
But what I love about the SNP, right, is that they were going up on this trajectory where 45% of Scots were like, yeah, we want to leave, and then the referendum happened. 55% were like, nah, we're not having it.
Yeah.
And then you notice it's going down ever since. That's weird because you'd expect to go up. But
especially with Brexit, which, most Scots wanted to stay in Europe.
Exactly. So I can only gather from this is that the Scottish people have been looking at the SNP and being like, do we actually want to be trapped in a country with these people?
Yeah.
Maybe England's oversight actually isn't such a terrible thing.
Yeah.
When it comes to Humza Yousaf or Nicola Sturgeon.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, that must be it, right?
And there's a lot of Scots moving to England now because you pay more tax in Scotland.
Yes,
so
if
you're a high earner, which you need the high earners in the country because they're the people who pay for everything.
They do.
All the other Scots can go on the dole because it's got a big benefits culture. So yeah, they're moving down to Northumbria and places like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they after Brexit. In 2017, the SNP said we're going to have a push for a second independence referendum. So to support the second referendum, Peter Murrell launched a fundraiser and raised about £660,000. But
we covered part of this yesterday. I think that's a really low number.
Yeah,
that's not very much, is it?
Yeah,
£600,000. I mean, Nigel Farage probably raised millions.
Can I have £600,000, please?
Well, I mean, I would like.
Now it's a lot of money.
Yeah, well, yeah, okay, proportionally. but when it's the entire independence movement of Scotland.
Yeah. I mean, I guess this was one fundraiser. They also had like 100,000 members who I guess donate.
Right.
And they also had whatever money they could because there's a lot of public spending in Scotland that's unaccounted for. Yeah. Which we'll get onto in a moment. But this was the specific thing that got investigated by the police under Operation Branch Form, because the second referendum never happened. So where did the donations go? In 2020, there were allegations that the money had been misappropriated and some donors demanded their money back.
Buried in Nicola Sturgeon's garden, apparently.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. So the SNP's new treasurer, Douglas Chapman, quit soon after being appointed. He said he hadn't been given the necessary financial information to carry out the role. It's like, if you're the finance chief, surely you get all the financial information, but no, they're holding some back.
Who was holding it back? If you're in charge of all the finances,
I guess the party. Yeah. So it was also revealed that the SNP was running low on cash with less than £100,000 in the bank. So the old treasurer, Colin Beattie, stepped back into the role. And Sturgeon's husband, Peter Murrell, gave a dodgy loan to the party in 2021. So this is the chief executive of the SNP loaning over 100 grand to the party, which broke electoral rules. And Sturgeon claimed she didn't know about it. She didn't know about her husband lending over 100 grand to the political party that she was the leader of.
And her speech was just like, well, what he does with his money is separate to me. It's like, come on,
man, who's got a wife that understanding?
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Right. If I go and spend 50 quid on an air fryer, I'm in trouble. You know what I mean?
Mate,
never mind. Oh, do you want to borrow £107,000? It's like, what? Are you nuts?
I don't know what he does with his money. He's just my husband.
Yeah, it's just
my political party that I rule.
Yeah, he just gave it to the political party. What are you making questions for?
It's
ridiculous.
Come on.
Absolutely ridiculous. Yeah. So Police Scotland launched an investigation and are now looking at 5 transactions made while Peter Murrell was still chief executive of the party, including at least one that involved the purchase of a car. It turned out to be a motorhome worth £110,000. I don't know if that's why he lent basically £110,000. And it was also revealed that the SNP had lost 30,000 members because people were just getting sick and tired. You know, the fire had gone out of the independence movement. And then
also they're insufferable woke bigots.
Yeah, people they didn't understand the gender reform bill. It wasn't popular in Scotland. Only a third of people thought it might even be a good idea.
But even that's way too many.
2/3 of people were opposed to it.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of very woke, active young people in Scotland who haven't they haven't sort of experienced anything to understand that maybe sterilising, maiming children might be a bad idea. Might have some negative side effects.
I tell you though, I am looking forward to the stereotype of the Scots changing, because in England, the stereotype of the Scots is actually quite positive, right?
Yeah.
They're sort of big, rugged, sensible, grounded people. Now I'm looking forward to them being effeminate, city-dwelling losers who have got like arms like twiglets.
You're describing me.
No, you're massive. You're like 10 feet tall. What are you talking about? But like, the stereotype of Scots is going to completely invert, and I'm here for it, man. It's going to be great.
I'm not so happy about that. But so Peter Murrell was arrested. Forensic tents went up. If you scroll down, you can see those tents. Detectives were seen in the gardens with shovels, drew comparisons to Fred West, which is totally unfair. Because Fred West could at least be trusted to complete construction projects on time and to a budget. You know what I mean?
He wasn't bankrupt, yeah.
Yeah, the SNP are a complete shambles, and more resignations followed. The auditors quit. 3 members of the SNP's Finance and Audit Committee resigned in protest because they were refused access to the books. Why would you refuse your own Finance and Audit Committee access to the things they need to look at?
I don't know, but in your comparison with Fred West, I mean, like, you can say a lot of things about Fred West, but he wasn't a racist, was he? Unlike Hamza Yusuf, sorry. So, and disavow Fred West, by the way.
A leaked video, he laid some of the greatest patios Bristol's ever seen. A leaked video showed Sturgeon rubbishing concerns about SNP finances, so we can see a little clip of this.
The party's never been in a stronger financial position than it is right now, and that's a reflection of our strength and our membership. So just a bit of context for us all to remember. Secondly, I'm not going to get into the details. That's for Douglas. That's what he's elected to do. And of course, this body is the governing body of the party. But, just be very careful, all of us, about suggestions that there are problems with the party's finances, because we depend on donors to donate. There are no reasons for people to be concerned about the party's finances, and all of us need to be careful about not suggesting that there is. And lastly,
that's enough of that.
NEC.
Yeah, it's also not very convincing, is it?
No, that's her talking to our party, saying basically, shut up about all this, because we need people to donate, and they won't. It's like a Ponzi scheme. People won't donate if they think it's all going to the wall.
Actually, I do think the Ponzi scheme is quite a good description, actually.
Yeah, pretty much everything in life is a Ponzi scheme, though, to be fair. Yeah. So then SNP...
Apart from subscribing to our website. We don't promise you anything. No.
Yeah, or signing up to my Patreon. You plug that. Anyway, SNP Member of Parliament, Joanna Cherry, who's a sort of political rival of Sturgeon, even though she's in the same party, said, I've sat in a number of management boards and I've never seen business conducted in such an inadequate way as it is on the S&P NEC, nor have I experienced the menacing atmosphere in which the business is conducted. So clearly, within our own part, there's a lot of dissent. Then Treasurer Colin Beattie was arrested.
Sorry, just to the point that she's literally governing like Stalin, though.
Yeah.
Isn't she, right?
Oh,
There's
yeah.
this atmosphere of fear. She's got like all the power centralized in herself, and there's huge amounts of corruption. Like this is like a Soviet ruler.
Absolutely. And bringing through new legislation. I mean, the SNP brought through the legislation that allowed Alex Salmond to be prosecuted for crimes he'd committed whilst in office, which he wouldn't have been able to. They wouldn't have been able to do that. I think he was found not guilty though.
Yeah, because it was a sexual assault
assault charge, yeah. And it was all very fishy and murky. You've got to be careful about what you say, but there was a lot
historic sexual assault charge.
There was a lot of people who were involved in it, then perhaps having a say in how it was prosecuted as well. So yeah, it was a very it was a bit of a conspiracy, but you can't say anything without getting in trouble. But yeah, the Treasurer Colin Beattie was arrested, and Humza, who took over from Sturgeon, he's the continuity candidate. Interestingly, Humza won by 52-48, the exact same. So he didn't exactly, get in with a landslide. He just, it was like Brexit, the exact same number. And he said, the Brexit result is, this Brexit result doesn't count. It's illegitimate because it's not by a powerful. Well, there you go, Humza. Are you legitimate? But he's replacing Sturgeon. He was the sort of picked candidate by Sturgeon. So here's him giving a little interview.
Well, look, I can't comment on a live police investigation. It's clearly a very serious matter indeed.
Have you suspended him from the party? Have you suspended him from the party or the group?
I've said already that people are innocent until proven guilty. That's the premise.
Will you take him off the Public Audit Committee in the meantime?
Look, again, I'll consider that. I'll have to speak to Colin Beattie. My understanding is he's still in the police station being questioned. Clearly, when he's off that, I'll need to have a word with Colin, not about the live police investigation. We can't speak about the detail of that. But clearly, there are pertinent issues around his role, Public Audit Committee, and his role, of course, as the National Treasurer.
Are you surprised that he's been arrested?
Well, yes, of course I'm surprised when one of my colleagues has been arrested, but it's a very serious matter indeed.
Does this threaten to derail what you're talking about here in Parliament this afternoon?
It certainly is not helpful. Of course, I wanted to, and I will, I'm still determined, of course, to articulate what my vision is as a new leader and a fresh start for the government. So I'll still do that, of course, at 20 minutes past 2, and I hope that we can move on to speak about those issues. But look, I'm not going to take away from the fact that the timing of this is far from ideal.
Now, the police are obviously investigating past activities in the SNP. Can you guarantee that the party isn't operating in a criminal way right now and since you became leader?
Oh, certainly. I don't believe it is at all. No, I'm instructed a review into transparency.
So we can stop that there.
This is so great, man. Look, I realise that our treasurer is currently with the police at the moment. I can't really comment on it, but I don't believe we're a criminal organisation.
Yeah, I mean, that's not the most convincing reply. I don't believe we're a criminal organisation. I mean, I'm the leader of this organisation. I don't believe it's criminal. I mean, I'd want an equivocal. Absolutely not. Yeah, we're definitely not a criminal organisation. But man, I think that's the sort of answer somebody who doesn't believe his own answer. You know what I mean?
Or just knows that something worse is going to come out tomorrow.
Yeah. Which I mean, even as we're recording this, Sturgeon could be getting arrested. So apparently she's going to be arrested soon. And that's where we're at for now. But this corruption investigation is just the tip of the iceberg. I'll just quickly go through some of the other things hanging over the SNP. So SNP Minister Natalie McGarry was jailed for embezzling 25 grand from pro-independence groups. Right. It's maybe where they got
just
the idea.
One random SNP MP.
Yeah, just, they've got access to the money. There was an £8.3 million fraud probe into SNP-controlled Dundee City Council involving a council employee allegedly selling council-owned property online. I believe it's been investigated and there's no problem. That's on the
SNP sound like some sort of African dictatorship.
Oh, yeah, but you can't even get a suntan in Scotland. And it's a banana republic, but with turnips. The Turnip Republic. It's a description because at least if you're in Mogadishu,
at least
it's
nice.
warm outside. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can have a barbecue.
Yeah, this is pissing me off. I'll just go lay out in the sun, not in Scotland.
And if we move on a couple of tabs, the big one is there was a BBC documentary. Go back to that one, the BBC documentary. So the small potatoes compared to the fraud alleged in a BBC documentary about a £97 million contract for ferries awarded to Jim McCall, who's a close pal of the SNP's, which has since ballooned into £150 million and rising. So they've awarded this contract to one of their cronies, still no ferries. They tried to do this sort of press release, this photo opportunity launch of the ferries, and people were like, wait a minute, those windows are painted on. You can
like the Del Boy of Scottish politics. Like, what is this?
Yeah. And there are rumours of businesses receiving government grants, then donating to the SNP, either
just paint the windows on Rodders.
Yeah, either directly or through. So the next tab is Brewdog, for example. So Brewdog is a shining success story in Scottish business. They make loads of money, even though their beer is horrible, and it tastes like washing up liquid and flowers. But despite their profits, Brewdog have received over £1 million in government grants.
Why would they need that?
Why do they need that? Well, if we move on to the next tab. Is it a coincidence that Brewdogs support the SNP, donate to them and help with their political campaigning, even hosting a photo opportunity for Nicola Sturgeon on the campaign trail? This would seem to me, they're giving out taxpayers' money to businesses that are then donating to the SNP. That just, I don't know, that looks dodgy to me.
Well, it is dodgy.
And the Stand, I'm a stand-up comedian. The Stand comedy clubs in Scotland are owned by the SNP. They're owned by Tommy Shepherd. And an audit showed that the SNP left £2.5 billion in emergency COVID relief money unspent and unaccounted for. So there's £2.5 billion just sort of in the ether.
This seems like a massive slush fund.
Yeah, absolutely. If we move on to the next one, so the Stand comedy clubs were one of only, we can ignore that headline, it's nonsense. That headline is true.
No, it sounds like it's probably true, actually.
Yeah, Leo Kearse claims
about.
he was blacklisted from Scotland's comedy clubs due to SNP criticism. That's absolutely right. I thought it was one of the other headlines that said, I was blacklisted for not being funny. That's a total lie. I'm very funny.
No, that is actually true. Leo is genuinely hilarious. The last time we did a live event, Leo was genuinely the highlight of it until he was like, look, you cut out all the racist jokes. I'm like, but they're the funny bits, Leo. I'm not even joking about that. No, he's genuinely hilarious.
So the Stand, owned by the SNP, these comedy clubs were one of only 3 arts groups in Scotland to receive the full COVID grant of 250 grand.
What a
There were
surprise.
203 applicants.
Yeah.
How funny it was an SNP owned organisation
It's
that
just
got
all this
that.
cronyism and all this money flowing around between the SNP, the businesses owned by the SNP or its supporters, and then back to the SNP. Like this it's so obviously corrupt.
Yeah. It's like something that would happen, in the Kremlin or something like that. But
it's literally like Putin's finances.
Yeah. Yeah. And also having the political party, so Tommy Shepherd, who's an SNP politician, he founded and owns the Stand comedy clubs.
Yeah.
Having them owned by the SNP means that no comedians can criticise the SNP without jeopardising their career. Like me, I've been blacklisted from the Stand. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous. Anyway, so there's all these question marks hanging over, all these boxes still to be opened with regards to potential SNP fraud, but there's no Scottish election till 2026.
Really?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
So they can stay in power for a while, unless everybody gets arrested. And also Humza is challenging Westminster over the gender reform bill. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I mean, 3 years is a long time in politics. So the SNP could continue with their agenda to turn Scotland into this woke banana republic. The Stalinist,
it looks like they will.
Stalinist child transitioning.
It literally is the most extreme version of everything as well, isn't it? It's like, it's genuinely mental.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what's wrong with Scottish people. At this point, why do you vote for this?
It's devolution. So the systems that have been set up in devolution, there's no second house. So, with Westminster legislation, number one, you get proper scrutiny because people are focused on Westminster. Number two, there's a second chamber. So you've got the House of Lords that'll boot out any legislation that, scrapes through the bit is bad.
Yeah.
So yeah, and having that elective dictatorship in Scotland really means that the SNP can do whatever they want to a certain extent.
God, that is awful.
Thanks for watching that segment from the podcast Lotus Eaters. I hope you enjoyed it. If you fancy exploring more of what we do, you can find our website lotuseaters.com and subscribe and become a premium member for as little as £5 per month, which will give you access to all of the premium work that we do, including this recent Contemplations, where Josh and Carl discussed all of the UFO sightings. If you'd like to find more of what Josh does and keep up to date with him, you can follow him on Getter at Josh_firm. Thank you and goodbye.